Hello, everyone. Welcome in today. I am Santiago here with Pemberley Realty, and we got a really good topic today. We're going to be talking about selling investment properties in San Diego, a local guide. So, we've sold a whole bunch of investment properties here in San Diego. Like I've mentioned before in previous videos, Roxanne has over 25 years of experience, and myself, I would say almost like 5 years. So, we've seen a lot of houses come and go. We've sold a lot of properties. So here's basically you know, our little guide on how to sell these investment properties if you do own some. So when you sell your investment properties, remember investors aren't really, looking on buying the kitchen counters or the paint color. They're not really going in there thinking about those aesthetic small things, countertops, bathrooms. If the countertop is a specific color like a regular home buyer will be doing. So they're buying more of the income stream that the investment property would give. So today, I'm kind of gonna walk you through how to understand the San Diego investment market, how to prepare your property, and how to price it correctly, how to market it to attract serious investors and sell your property at top dollar. So why don't we just get started with the first things first, understanding the market. So let's talk about the San Diego investment market. San Diego has one of the strongest rental markets in all of California. It's one of the most expensive places, as we all know. If you're local from San Diego, rental prices are pretty high up. So, there's steady job growth, big universities, San Diego State, USD, goes on and on. Military presence is such a big thing too. And I would say the housing supply on rentals is not that great. So rental demand is always pretty strong here in San Diego. Maybe not now during the holidays because not a lot of people want to move during the holidays, but it is still a strong market compared to a lot of other places in the United States. So uh, it's the properties continue to give good returns to investors out there. So it's a good thing to be an owner, and a lot of investors out there are looking for that good property to have. So what are some good areas here in San Diego? We're here in University Heights. So the City Heights, North Park, Normal Heights, these are very great places. They have small multifamily buildings, good good rent. There's a lot of things to do around here, and it's very central to all of San Diego. Then you have more of Claremont area, Linda Vista. Those are more long-term tenants and offer, good appreciation of your home. And then Chula Vista and Oceanside, a little bit farther south here in San Diego, but a little bit more affordable for more affordable options for investors. And there's a good strong rental demand. Since it's developing as a whole, and it's just growing in general. So investors are basically looking for rent rolls, reliable tenants, and properties that have good upside, maybe below market rents, ADUs. Like here in North Park, we do have a lot of ADUs that are being built. So that is something that can, you know, boost up your investment property. So now that we kind of understand what the investors want, we can start positioning the property to fit, that profile. So now let's talk about preparing your property to sell. Here in Pemberley Realty, you know, before we even think about listing, we got to gather all the information that we can. So we have the leases, the rent roll, expense records, utilities, the information, how much you're paying for that, maintenance logs. So, the fridge was it put, you know, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, what's new in the property, the roof, what's the status on that, solar, you know, all that information. So once you have that, then you can take care of those small repairs, like fix any leaks, touch up paint, replace any worn hardware, stuff like that. You don't need a fully remodel, but you do want to show that the property has been maintained. So that's something that you want to think about. And then the last thing is you're going to want to decide if you want to sell with tenants or vacant. So there's pros and cons to both of them. Selling with tenants, like I mentioned, it can be kind of difficult to show property. It might be a little bit more difficult. Uh, if they're not on their good side, if the tenants are not, you know, cooperating, it might be almost impossible to show. So you might not get as many eyes to look at the place. If it's vacant, you do you do have the chance to have people walk in, go whenever they want, get as much traction as you can, but you don't have that tenant, still paying you rent while you're selling the property. So that's a decision that you have to make if you want to sell it quicker. Of course, I feel like having the property be vacant, it would be a lot easier. But if you have a little bit more time and you want to put up with the tenants, or they're very great tenants, then selling with tenants might not be a bad option. So you just want to be very transparent with that, and make sure that the potential buyers are able to take a look at the place and get going. So now, the one of the most important things is pricing. So this is a big one. So investment properties aren't valued like regular single family homes. Uh, they value them more based on the income that they produce, that they give. So instead of comparing square footage or bedroom count, investors look a little bit more at the cap rate. So what is the cap rate? It's basically the net operating income that it makes. So all the rents, and then you just divide it by the purchase price that was bought, or the purchase price that you're gonna set it at, and that will give you a percentage on of the cap rate. So let's just say that the property produces $100,000 in net income each year. If similar properties in the area are selling at 5% cap rate, then that means your property value is around 2 million. So now you have a little idea. Here in San Diego, some neighborhoods are sitting between that 4.5 to 5.5% cap rate. So coastal areas can be lower, around 3.5 to 4.5. East County might be a little bit higher, 5.5 to 6.5. So you want to make sure you want to highlight these things for those investors out there, and make sure that you're pricing it right, so that you know you want to get those details that build confidence and make investors willing to pay a premium. So now on marketing end, once your price reflects the property's income potential, it's time to market to the right audience, which is of course the investors. So that starts with the marketing material. So here at Pemberley, some stuff that we do have an extensive list of investors that we've worked with before. Uh, and like I've mentioned a million times, the experience that we have here is a lot. So we do have a lot of contacts and people that we know that we reach out to, and are more than willing to submit offers and look at the place. Investors themselves. So that is something that we do very well here at Pemberley Realty. And then also, create a financial packet, basically put together with how much things cost, how much each unit might, rent for, all that. Investors really love that transparency, all that information being put out in front of them. So having all this down to a T makes the property be a little bit more attractive, and you're gonna sell a whole lot faster. You can also target those 1031 exchange buyers. These are investors that are kind of going to rush. As you know, 1031 exchange, we've talked about in previous StreamYard that we've done, is that, they do have a short timeline, and, they do need to reinvest quick. So being able to market to them is something that can benefit the quicker sell off of your home. So, and then finally, the last thing, we put the property out in all the platforms that we can. So it's on the MLS, it gets put up on Zillow, all that, where they all go. So that's also another way that investors can look at your property and request to show the property, look at it, all that, different stuff. So very important. So we've worked with an example that with previous clients that we've worked with, is that the home was just sitting there, and we did have tenants. So I'll bring it up this with tenants. We had this property listed, multi-unit home, and it had tenants, and they were making it super difficult to show the property. So it turned a lot of heads because they didn't want to have to deal with the whole, removing tenants, having to, or just having to take up with having to work with those tenants. So not a lot of people were interested. We had it in the market for a little bit of time, but then we were able to get the tenants out. And once we had the property vacant, you know, property sold fairly quick. I would say within we were under contract within a month or two since they left. So now to wrap it all up, San Diego is a very competitive investment market. So the difference in, you know, it's very different compared to other cities in California and just any other out of state cities. So now that I've talked about, now that you understand what investors kind of want, you present clean financials showing how much it makes in rents and price your property based on its income potential, you'll stand out and attract serious buyers. So if you're thinking about selling your investment property, start by getting all your documents ready, financials, like I've mentioned, financials, rent rolls, try and get that cap rate ready and connect with us. We can definitely help you out and help you understand and even help you with these financials, put them all together. So you remember, you are selling real estate, but you're selling also a business opportunity to this investor. So I really appreciate everyone for joining today. Um, that's all I have on selling investment properties here in San Diego. So if you want to reach out to us, feel free to call Roxanne, which her number is right here. Then you can also email us, which I also check the email as well, right down here. Check us out on Facebook. We do have our website here too as well. Instagram. My personal number is right here too, so you can give me a call if you have any questions on selling investment properties. And if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. I really appreciate you guys all joining, and I'll see you guys on the next one.